Hey everybody, it's Lon.TV, and one of my favorite game controllers of all time, the 8bitdo Pro 2, just got a nice update. They still call it the Pro 2, but its analog sticks now are using Hall effect sensors that use a magnet versus the Alps-based potentiometers in the old one here. And the result is you have a more smooth control, a little bit more precision, and less likelihood of wearing out and drifting over time. And beyond that, the controller is largely the same, which is good because the controller was really one of the best ones on the market, especially for people that value a nice D-pad along with some more modern controls. And although I reviewed this about 3 years ago, I thought we may as well just go ahead and review the new one here and take a look at all of its features and some of the compatibility options that it offers as well. Now, before we get into this, I do want to let you know, in the interest of full disclosure, that this came in free of charge from Acnes, which is an 8bitdo distributor here in the US. All of the opinions, though, you're about to hear are my own. No other compensation was received, and no one has reviewed or approved what you're about to see before it was uploaded. So let's get into it now and see what this controller is all about. Now, the price point on this comes in at around $50. They have a number of different colors to choose from. This is the crystal blue, which, as you can see, is partially translucent here. They also have a crystal green and a crystal purple that also looks similar to this in just different colors. They have the classic retro styling here still available, like my old Pro 2 has. They also have one that looks like a Game Boy and one that is all black, which matches, of course, the Nintendo Pro controller quite nicely. So lots of different color schemes here to choose from. What I really like about these controllers is the compatibility on them. So this will work with just about everything except the PlayStation and the Xbox consoles. So it'll work in X input mode if you have the switch here on the back switched over to X. It works with the Nintendo Switch, and I tested that out a little bit earlier. And the nice thing about the Switch is that in addition to working just fine as a game controller in a traditional sense, it also has motion controls. So in a game like Mario Odyssey here, where you can have the hat toss based on how you move the controller around, all of those controls work. So that was pretty cool. And of course, you get the rumble motors working in Switch mode as well. And to move it over to the Switch, you just move the Switch over to the S position here. It also supports direct input for devices that require that. And there's an A mode here, which is a kind of a deprecated feature for Apple platforms. Apple now supports X input and direct input on most of their devices now. So the A isn't all that necessary anymore, but it's still on the controller from before. As you'll notice here on the back, you have 2 buttons that you can program, which I'll show you in a little bit. You also have some nice analog triggers here too, and I'll demo all of those functions here in a little bit. One of the nice things about this is that you have a choice of power options. So it does come with a rechargeable battery that sits in here, and as you can see, the battery can come out most of the time. And you have the choice to use the rechargeable battery here or put AA batteries in. So that's kind of nice, especially given that you can take the battery out pretty easily here and replace it at will. So lots of neat options here for the Pro 2 controller, and I love how compatible it is with just about everything. The one thing that it lacks is 8bitdo's custom wireless connection. So all of the wireless connectivity is done through Bluetooth. Their flagship controller here, the Ultimate, connects up either via Bluetooth or through their 2.4 gigahertz dongle. Their dongle reduces some of the latency you might encounter with Bluetooth. One of the things that I've noticed over the years is that every device has a different Bluetooth controller, and some have more input lag or latency than others. So the consistency of performance from one device to the next using Bluetooth can be a little shaky. So that's why I tend to plug my controllers in directly every time I can to get the best performance out of them. But beyond that, very nice compatibility here and very easy to move around from one device to the next. Now, one of the things I love about the Pro 2 controller is that it is very configurable, and they have some software here called the 8bitdo Ultimate software that allows you to configure the controller for the different platforms that it supports. So for example, if I jump into Windows here, this will configure the controller's behavior when it's attached to a computer. And when you jump in here, you can remap all of the buttons. You have some macro capability, so you could map macros to the bottom button on the controller if you want to do different things in different games. You have 3 different profile settings, so the controller can remember multiple configurations, and you can very quickly switch between those configurations by pushing the profile change button here in the center. So lots of options here for configuring it. One nice thing too is they have a way to adjust the sensitivity of your sticks and your triggers. And as you can see here, it doesn't take much to register something on the meter there. As you can see, I'm just very lightly touching that stick and it's picking up movement. That's one of the great things about these Hall effect sticks, is that they are very precise and super sensitive. And if you want a little bit more of a dead zone, because these really don't have a dead zone at all, you can go in and adjust the stick dead zones here to give you less or more of them, so you can get it to really where you want it to be. And that's a nice feature. And again, you can set each of these to their own profile. Additionally, you have the ability to jump into the trigger section here and adjust things the same way. But they've really got these analog controls now down really nicely, and things are super, super sensitive. And it's nice to be able to control with a good level of granularity how these things work. You'll also have some great vibration motors in here as well. When I was playing some games on it earlier, I was surprised by how strong they are, and about the same as what they were before. And what you can do in here is adjust those motors. You can actually see them moving when you play the game on the transparent versions here, which is pretty neat. But they've got 2 strong motors on both sides of the controller that will deliver all the vibration you could ask for and then some, which is good. I also noticed the D-pad is feeling pretty nice to me here. I'm not getting too many errant diagonals. I did a test earlier with Contra where I held down the character there and wiggled a bit to see if he would move, and he didn't. I'll pull up that footage for you right now so you can see it. So here you can see me wiggling a little bit there, and he's staying put. So the D-pad has been a real strength of these 8bitdo controllers in recent years, and that continues to this day. It feels a little snappier than the old one does, but not a lot different. But if you are someone who plays a lot of retro games, I really like the position of the D-pad on this PlayStation-style controller versus the Xbox style that they offer in the Ultimate. So good stuff on the control front here. The buttons feel great, good travel on everything, and the comfort of the controller when you're holding it is also quite nice. Now, games play great on the controller, just like the old one did, but I have to say the sticks feel smoother to me. There's something about these Hall effect sticks that just have a nicer feel, both in their precision, but also in just how the stick feels as you move it around. It's got a very consistent feel to it, no matter which direction you're pushing it in. It's really hard to explain, but if you've spent a lot of time on the old controller like I have, these feel a lot nicer. And of course, this controller is a lot newer than my old one, but by and large, I think the Hall effect sticks are a very nice improvement to this, and if you are in the market for a Pro 2, make sure you get the one with the Hall effect sticks and not the older ones, because there is a nice difference in overall performance here, and it just plays nicer. Now, one thing I noticed on my older controller here, which is now about 3 years old and has been subjected to abuse from my kids, from my nephews, and from traveling, you can see that sometimes if I move the left stick, it stays in a position here where it's registering 5 to 8% movement, even though there is no movement being made on it. And that's the sort of thing that you run into with the older Alps-style sticks, that they will eventually start drifting on you, and you might have to go into the software and make some adjustments to extend the dead zone. That's not something you'll encounter on a Hall effect version like this one. Now, before we close out, I've got a little lightning round of compatibility here. This is the Steam Deck, of course, running with the controller in Bluetooth mode set to X input. And as you can see here, it is working just fine. I also booted up a non-Steam game. This is a PlayStation 2 emulator, and this also worked with the controller without issue. Everything mapped up just fine, again, in X input mode. I also tested it in X input mode via Bluetooth on a Chromebook, and we were running the GeForce Now game streaming service with Starfield here running, the PC version of Starfield, and it worked great. No problems on the Chromebook either, so compatibility has been quite nice on this. And then we tried out the iPhone here, and one of the nice things about the 8bitdo controllers is that they are officially supported, so once you pair it up via Bluetooth, again in X input mode, it picks it up, and any game that works with a game controller on iOS or tvOS or iPadOS will work with the controller without issue. This, by the way, is the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles game that you can download through your Netflix account if you have a Netflix account. There's a bunch of free games for you on there. And last but not least, we did a more non-traditional platform here. This is the Mister. I did have the controller directly connected because I didn't have my Bluetooth dongle hooked up, but it works just fine connected either way in X input mode here, and I was able to map controls to the analog sticks without issue. So all in here, the 8bitdo Pro 2 is just as good as it was, but now it's improved a bit thanks to the Hall effect sticks on board. I found the D-pad has a little more travel to it. It feels slightly improved over the prior version, but not substantially so. But all in, this was my favorite controller and still is, especially when it's directly connected. So I have no reservations recommending this one because I've gotten a lot of use out of the old one here and still will continue to use it. But this one, of course, will be a nice addition to the game room. That's going to do it for this one. Until next time, this is Lon.TV. Thanks for watching.